Can you feel that? That ground-shaking rumble? The 2026 World Cup is hurtling toward us. And guys, the anticipation isn't just building, it's literally vibrating. Welcome to The Explainer. Look, today we're throwing out the complex financial spreadsheets. We're skipping the TV broadcast rights. Instead, we're zeroing in on the raw, kinetic, undeniable energy that actually makes the most valuable World Cup 2026 teams so incredibly valuable. We're breaking down a piece of source material that strips stadium culture right down to its absolute core. We are dissecting the literal anatomy of hype. I'm going to read this exact transcript straight from our source material, and I want you to really feel the sheer acceleration of the syllables here. Ready? Here we go. Hey, 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 heat, heat, hey, 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 heat, 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 oh, heat, 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 up. I mean, it hits you like an absolute wall of sound, doesn't it? It's explosive, it's totally repetitive, it perfectly mirrors that relentless, pounding rhythm of tens of thousands of fans just stomping their feet on the bleachers.
Section 1, the anatomy of hype. Okay, let's dive into this. We need to put this microchant under a microscope to understand exactly how it manages to construct such a massive wall of sound. Because, this isn't just random yelling. There's actually a distinct, almost mathematical architecture to how this energy gets deployed. 22. That's it. This entire burst of cultural anticipation, this massive wave of World Cup energy, it's fueled by a mere 22 words. It just goes to show you don't always need a long, winding stadium anthem to generate a tidal wave of momentum. In fact, it proves that extreme brevity, when you combine it with intense repetition, creates this incredible, almost unstoppable acoustic momentum. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how aggressively skewed the vocabulary actually is. Out of those 22 total words, we only have 4 distinct terms. Heat takes up the massive lion's share, right? Then that's followed by hey, and finally just these tiny slivers for O and up. So the raw hype here, it's not about complex lyricism. It is mathematically skewed toward one single, super aggressive concept. 14. The word heat is chanted exactly 14 times within a 22-word span. It is the absolute core engine of the chant's energy, and it just completely dominates the auditory space. Think about it. When you're chanting for the most valuable teams in the world, you aren't even chanting their names. You're chanting the atmospheric addition they bring to the pitch. You are literally demanding the heat.
Section 2. Quantifying the heat.
So now that we know the ingredients, let's break down the exact structure and rhythm of this World Cup hype machine. There are really 2 primary phases to the chant's momentum. First up, phase 1, the setup. Hey, hey, hey. This is the rhythmic staccato buildup. Think of it like a snare drum. It gets everybody's attention and basically aligns the entire crowd to the exact same tempo. Now contrast that with phase 2, the overload. This is that unbroken, overwhelming, repetitive force of the heats. Once the rhythm is locked in with the haze, the chant just drops the hammer with pure, unadulterated force. And this brilliantly illustrates how the chant chronologically divides into 3 distinct stanzas. Stanza 1 gives us just a taste, right? 3 haze followed by 2 heats. But then look at stanza 2. The foundation is exactly the same. 3 haze, but the payload expands massively to 6 continuous heats. Finally, stanza 3 just abandons the haze altogether. It introduces a totally new sound, O, and delivers another heavy barrage of heats right before reaching this capitalized finale. If we track the word heat across the 3 stanzas, it reveals a massive jump. Look closely at the shift from stanza 1 to stanza 2. It goes from a count of 2 straight up to a count of 6. Guys, that is a mathematical tripling of the heat metric. It literally represents a visual and auditory crescendo. The chant doesn't just sit at one volume, you know? It exponentially multiplies its own energy as it moves forward. So, the crucial point is, what does this actually represent on a macro level? Heat in this context, it isn't about the weather outside. It is the raw, repetitive vocal energy utilized to build massive anticipation for the most valuable World Cup 2026 teams. Seriously, when we talk about team value, we're ultimately talking about this: a team's ability to generate this exact kind of fervent, unified, explosive crowd momentum. Section 3, the ultimate climax. Let's move right to the explosive conclusion of this microchant, because the way it ends is highly, highly deliberate. In a chant that is utterly dominated by hey and heat, the sudden, kind of jarring introduction of 2 totally unique words, O and up, acts as a massive pattern disruptor. The O serves as the sharp intake of breath before the final barrage, and the up acts as the absolute definitive peak of the rhythmic escalation right before that final capitalized heat. They're literal structural signposts, telling the crowd that the explosion has officially arrived. We can actually distill this entire phenomenon down into a highly effective, repeatable formula. Step 1, you establish the rhythm with the staccato hey. Step 2, you introduce and mathematically multiply the core concept of heat, pushing the crowd's energy higher and higher. And then step 3, you break the pattern and climax with up. Heat. It's a literal 3-step blueprint used to systematically hype up the 2026 World Cup environment. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to think about this. When we look toward the 2026 World Cup, are the teams at the top of the financial charts just the most valuable teams on paper? Or are they simply the ones with the fan bases capable of bringing the most heat? Value isn't always just a number in a bank account, right? Sometimes it's a 22-word chant echoing through a stadium of 80,000 people. Keep that in mind the next time you hear the crowd start